It was Christmas, the time when families are supposed to come together. But as my dad mocked me, calling me still unemployed, I knew something had to change. Minutes later, a message from Bloomberg hit my phone offering me a job I'd worked my entire life for. Suddenly, everything was about to shift. My name is Audrey, and Christmas was supposed to be a time for family. The tree was lit, the food was laid out, and everything seemed picture perfect, but the laughter in the air felt forced, as if we were all pretending to be happy. I should have known it wasn't going to be a good night. My dad sat at the head of the table, his smug grin plastered on his face as he looked at me. Still unemployed, huh? He said, his voice dripping with condescension. Guess some people never change. I could feel the blood rush to my face. My fingers tightened around my glass of water, the coldness biting into my skin as I tried to hold my composure. Dad, you know I've been looking, I muttered, forcing a smile, trying to make it seem like I didn't care, but I did more than he could ever understand. Looking? That's all you've been doing for the past year, isn't it? His tone was harsh, like a slap. You're 27, Audrey. It's about time you get your act together. The words stung, they always did. But tonight it felt different. I could feel the weight of everyone else's eyes on me, waiting for me to react. My mom, sitting across from me, shifted uncomfortably in her seat, but said nothing as usual. I looked down at my plate, trying to avoid their gazes. The food was too heavy to eat. My stomach twisted in knots. Every bite felt like a chore. You know, Dad continued, the edges of his voice sharpening. We've been telling you for years. You need to stop chasing these dream jobs and take whatever you can get. Maybe you should start looking at real work. Stop living in fantasy land. I felt the blood boil in my veins. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him how hard I'd worked, how much I'd sacrificed, but I didn't. Instead, I forced a laugh, pretending it didn't hurt. I'll find something. Dad, just give it time. He raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into a smirk. Time? You've had enough of that, sweetheart. Maybe it's time to stop pretending and accept reality. Your mom and I aren't getting any younger. You know, I could feel my hands tremble as I gripped the edge of the table. The words were suffocating, each one heavier than the last. The room suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. My chest tightened, and I had to force myself to breathe. I'm doing my best, I said, my voice coming out barely above a whisper. Your best isn't good enough, he snapped. Not when you're living off your parents, not when you're wasting away. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears stung at the corners of my eyes, threatening to spill over. I quickly wiped them away, pretending it was just a bad allergy season. I don't need your pity, Dad, I said, my voice shaking. I'm not the failure you think I am. You have no idea what I'm going through. He rolled his eyes, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. Oh, I know exactly what you're going through, Audrey. It's called laziness. I tried to laugh it off, but my heart wasn't in it anymore. The truth of his words cut through me, like a blade, sharper than I'd ever imagined. This wasn't the family I thought I had. This wasn't the support system I'd relied on. And the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just my dad, it was everyone. They couldn't see me. They couldn't see how hard I worked, how much I fought every day. All they saw was failure. All they saw was a daughter who couldn't live up to their expectations. The conversation turned to something else, something trivial, like my brother's new job or my cousin's engagement. But I couldn't focus. All I could hear was my dad's words echoing in my mind. Your best isn't good enough. The dinner went on, but the room felt cold. The warmth of the season, the togetherness of family, it all felt like a lie now. I was no longer part of it. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. I think I'll head to bed. It's been a long day, I muttered, not waiting for a response. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing myself. My place in this family was slipping away, and I didn't know how to stop it. The weight of their judgment, their expectations, it was unbearable. I closed my bedroom door behind me and collapsed onto the bed, tears streaming down my face. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. This wasn't the Christmas I had imagined. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I thought the night couldn't get worse. After dinner, I had locked myself in my room, away from the laughter and the cold stares. It wasn't that I didn't want to be part of the family. It was just that I couldn't bear the weight of their judgment anymore. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through my phone aimlessly. I was hoping for some relief, something to take my mind off everything, but then it buzzed again. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know. But the name on the screen made my heart stop. Bloomberg. I stared at it, unsure of what to do. This wasn't just any notification. This was the email I had been waiting for, the one that would change everything. The one that would prove I wasn't the lazy failure they saw me as. But I didn't want to read it. Not here, not now. I had a million thoughts racing through my mind, but none of them were good. What if it's a rejection? What if I'm not good enough? I swallowed hard and tapped on the screen. The message opened and I froze. We are pleased to inform you that your application has been successful. I read it again. Slowly this time, my heart was pounding in my chest. I had done it. I had made it. They accepted me. I've got the job. I couldn't believe it. The job I had worked so hard for. The one that would prove to everyone, especially my dad, that I wasn't just still unemployed. But the joy that should have flooded me didn't come. Instead, I felt hollow. There was no one around to share it with, no one to celebrate. No high fives or congratulations. Just silence. I wanted to scream, to show them all what I had achieved, to throw it in their faces and finally shut my dad up. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there numb. The weight of the news settled over me, heavier than I expected. It should have felt like a victory, but I didn't feel victorious. I put the phone down and leaned back against the headboard of my bed. My family was still downstairs. I could hear their voices drifting up, like a reminder of everything I didn't have. They couldn't even see it. They couldn't see me. They couldn't see how hard I worked, how much I had sacrificed for this moment. All they saw was someone who had failed, and that's how they would always see me. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to push the bitterness away, but it was there. Right at the surface, my dad's words echoed in my mind, louder than before. Still unemployed, laziness, wasting away. I grabbed my phone again. Staring at the message, I should have been jumping for joy. Instead, I felt like I was sinking deeper into the same pit I had been in for years. I wanted to tell someone. I wanted to call my best friend, tell her everything, but I knew she had her own life, her own responsibilities. I couldn't burden her with my pain. I couldn't burden anyone. I thought back to what my dad had said. Your best isn't good enough, but this job was proof that I was enough, that I wasn't lazy, that I wasn't a failure. But even as the pride started to settle in, there was that nagging feeling again, the feeling that no one would ever understand, no one would ever truly see me for what I was worth. I stood up from the bed and walked over to the window. I could see the lights from the street outside, the world moving on while I was stuck in this place, this family that never truly saw me. I wanted to be proud of myself. I should be proud of myself. But how could I be when the people who mattered most to me couldn't see it? How could I celebrate when all they ever did was tear me down? I let out a shaky breath, my reflection in the glass staring back at me, unrecognizable. I didn't know who I was anymore. Was I Audrey, the girl with potential, or was I just the daughter who couldn't live up to expectations? The phone buzzed again in my hand, pulling me out of my thoughts. This time, it was a call. I looked at the screen. It was my dad. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to answer, to tell him everything, to show him the email, to make him understand. But the other part of me knew it wouldn't matter. He'd never see me for what I truly was. I let it ring, and as it went to voicemail, I felt something shift. The weight of their judgment was still there, but it didn't matter anymore. I wasn't going to let it define me, not anymore. This was just the beginning. I couldn't believe it. After months of doubt, I held my first paycheck in my hands. It felt like more than just money. It was the symbol of everything I had fought for. I wasn't just getting paid for my work, I was being paid for my persistence, my refusal to give up when my family had told me I'd never make it. But holding that check, I knew one thing for sure: it was time to face them. I walked into my parents' house with my head held high, the weight of the check in my pocket almost like armor. I didn't even wait for the usual passive-aggressive comments or the side glances. I was done pretending to be someone I wasn't. Dad, Mom, I got something to tell you, I said, standing in the doorway, my voice firm, despite the nervous energy swirling inside me. They both looked up from the couch, their faces expectant, as though they were waiting for the usual failure from me. I didn't care. I got the job. I continued, watching their faces carefully for any signs of disbelief or disdain. The job I'd been working for, the one you didn't think I was capable of. My dad narrowed his eyes, his lips twisting into that familiar smirk. Well, look at you, finally landing a job. That's a surprise. I felt the old anger rise in my chest, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I pulled the paycheck from my pocket and held it up for them to see. Yeah, I did it. On my own. No help from you, no approval, just me. There was a long pause. My dad's smirk faltered, the weight of my words sinking in. You're not living off us anymore, huh? He asked, his voice colder than usual. No, I said, my voice steady. I'm not. It was the first time in years that I felt the power shift. The years of being belittled, of constantly being told I wasn't enough, they didn't matter anymore. I could see it in their eyes. They didn't know how to handle this version of me. They were used to the meek daughter who took whatever they handed her, who never questioned their authority, but I wasn't that girl anymore. My mom, who had remained silent until then, spoke up, her voice softer. We're proud of you, Audrey. We just wanted you to be practical. I laughed, but it wasn't a joyful sound. It was bitter. Practical, I echoed. You mean you wanted me to give up? To settle for whatever scraps I could get? I'm not doing that anymore, Mom. I'm done with your practical advice. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. You've always been difficult, Audrey, always questioning. Always fighting for what's right, I interrupted. Always wanting more than you were willing to give me. Always wanting more than you thought I deserved. The words came out sharper than I intended. But I didn't regret them. I was done letting them control my narrative, done letting them define me by their standards. I walked over to the kitchen counter and put the paycheck down, letting it sit. They're like a victory. They couldn't take it from me. They couldn't invalidate what I had earned. You don't have to keep pretending I'm a disappointment, I said, my voice calm now. I'm not, and I never was. They didn't say anything in response, but I didn't need them to. I wasn't here for their approval anymore. The silence that followed felt heavy, but I wasn't going to break. I had spent too many years trying to get them to see me, trying to make them proud, but now I was proud of myself. And that was enough. I turned to leave, but my dad's voice stopped me. You're not going to stay, are you? He asked, his tone quieter than before. No, I said, my back still to them as I reached for the door. I've outgrown this place, outgrown all of you. The weight that had held me down for so long seemed to lift from my shoulders. The house that had once felt like home, the place where I had tried to find approval, now felt like a cage. As I stepped outside, the cool air hit me like a breath of fresh air. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. I was done being the daughter who could never live up to their expectations. I was done being the person they tried to mold me into. I was Audrey. And for the first time in my life, I was exactly who I was meant to be. I walked back into my parents' house for the last time, my heart pounding in my chest. It was harder than I thought it would be. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times in my head, but none of those times had prepared me for the reality of it. My dad sat in his usual spot, slouched in his chair, the TV on low, and the room smelled like the stale air of old arguments. My mother was in the kitchen, humming to herself, unaware of the storm that was about to break. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I knew I couldn't wait any longer, not with the job, not with everything that had happened. I took a deep breath, then stepped into the living room, my eyes locking onto my father's. Dad, I said, my voice steady, but my hands were shaking. He didn't even look up. What now? He grumbled, as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience. I swallowed, letting the weight of what I was about to say settle in. I'm done. I'm done trying to get your approval. I'm done trying to prove something to you, finally. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. What are you talking about now, Audrey? I'm talking about everything. You, Mom. This house, this family. I let the words slip out like a dam breaking, and I couldn't stop them. You've spent my entire life telling me I wasn't enough, that I wasn't good enough. You've made me feel small for as long as I can remember, and I'm done with it. His face twisted with anger. His jaw clenched as he stood up. You think you've got it all figured out, don't you? You think just because you've got a job now, you can throw everything away. No, I said, shaking my head. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm finally standing up for myself. I've spent my entire life chasing after you, trying to make you proud, but all you've ever done is tear me down. He took a step toward me, his voice rising. I've been trying to teach you, Audrey, teach you how the world works. You think it's easy, you think life just hands you things. No, I don't think that, I shot back, my voice rising with my emotions. I know life is hard. I've known that since I was a kid. But you, I stopped myself, my chest tightening as the tears threatened to rise. I didn't want to cry in front of him, but I couldn't help it. You made me think I wasn't worth anything, that I wasn't capable of anything, and I believed it. His face softened for a second, and I thought I saw something like guilt flash across his features. But it was fleeting, just a moment of weakness that disappeared. Before I could even grasp it, you're my daughter, Audrey. I did what I thought was best for you, he said, his voice quieter now, as if he realized how much damage he had done. Your best, I laughed bitterly. Your best wasn't good enough, Dad. You pushed me away, made me feel worthless, and now, I'm finally doing something for myself. I'm making something of my life, without you, without your approval. I watched his face as the words hit him. He took a step back, his expression unreadable. For a moment, it felt like time froze, the years of resentment, of silence, all piled up in this one moment. He had pushed me to the edge. And now he had no choice but to face the truth of what he'd done. You think you've got it all figured out, huh? He asked, his voice barely a whisper now. No, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't think I've got it all figured out, but I know this family isn't healthy for me. You've made me believe I'm nothing, and I'm tired of it. I stood there, waiting for him to say something, anything, but he just stood there, staring at me, his eyes full of something I couldn't place. Maybe regret, maybe anger, maybe a little bit of both, but I didn't care anymore. I'm not your little girl anymore, Dad, I said, my voice calm now. I'm not going to live in your shadow. I've worked too hard for this, and I'm not going to let you make me feel small anymore. I turned and walked toward the door, every step feeling heavier than the last. My heart was racing, but this time, it was different. I wasn't running away. I wasn't avoiding him. I was walking away, finally breaking free. Where are you going? He called after me. But I didn't answer. I didn't need to dot as I stepped. Outside, the cool night air hit me, and for the first time, I felt like I could breathe. The weight of everything I had carried for so long, the shame, the doubt, the need for approval lifted from my shoulders like a heavy cloak. I had broken free, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back.